When he was born, the first thing he noticed was the lights from the ceiling and the candles on the wall. He was born smarter and stronger than a normal human, curious since birth. While looking around, the lady holding him grabbed his tiny hand while calling him her baby. At age 3, he was sneaking away from his nannies to get a glimpse of the outside world. The vastness of the world always fascinated him. Although his adventures always ended fairly quickly, the maids were quite overprotective of him. Not that they had a choice, since he was the firstborn of the Grand Duchy, the son of Grand Duke Dragonia in the Kingdom of Lionheart. At age 8, his father gifted him his first sword, and he started learning swordsmanship as a future knight of the kingdom. His master was someone dispatched from the palace, the Holy Knight Sir Gothic. He was very excited to learn from someone so renowned. But by age 14, Sir Gothic had trained him to the bone, and he cursed the Holy Knight every step of the way for putting him through hell. Holy Knights were basically monsters in human skin, an unimaginable post for a normal human. The knight aspirants had to complete quests by training and becoming knights through experience and honor, and be chosen by the Holy Grail to drink the holy water. On top of the hellish training, as a son of Dragonia, he had to learn everything there was to know about becoming a Grand Duke, on top of the lessons to be the successor to the Grand Duke, all while getting beaten to a pulp every day after training. Even though he was never a person of religion, this training had made him wish for a god to save him. At age 16, he started to roam the world in order to be acknowledged by the goddess and become a holy knight after accepting his quest. How does one get acknowledged by a goddess, you ask? By racking up fame and good deeds, the goddess would eventually come to him. But there were countless opportunities for him to wield his sword. While the orcs marched towards the outnumbered human settlement, he cursed at them from behind for dirtying the soil of his kingdom with their filthy feet. He cut through all the enemies he came across, but the kingdom had too many enemies. At the age of 20, he met the goddess. He had thought that it was a lie, but she was actually in front of him, and she gave him his quest. After accepting Goddess Ariana's quest, he slaved away for many years in order to become a holy knight. After that, he slayed the orcs, tore apart goblins, and destroyed the evil cultists, eventually becoming a war knight of the kingdom, giving him authority to gather other knights. At this point, he had massacred more than 700,000 orcs, leaving none behind. When he was 35, the living saint and demigod, Argent Majesty Lionheart, had passed away. He died fighting an archdemon that was summoned by the Empire. Orcs were enough of a problem, but now they had to deal with a whole nation of demon worshippers. And they had to elect a holy knight to become the successor of King Lionheart, who died with honor. Amidst the chaos, the goddess descended upon them and chose him, her most faithful knight, to succeed as the symbol of honor and faith. Even though he never wanted to be a knight, he could not let the citizens of the kingdom and the knights that followed him down. He accepted Ariana's choice and got the lion heart transplanted into him by the goddess, and vowed to protect the Holy Grail. That is how he became the Grand Duke Dragonia and the king of the Lionheart Kingdom. When he was 80, many things had happened. He had fought 3 great wars with the orcs. Some weird hunchback goblin had somehow evolved into an archdemon, and the Empire kept creating more situations for his kingdom. Right after a war, one of the knights informed him that the Empire's school of dark magicians was enforcing human experimentations again. Without even time to properly mourn his comrade, he had to move on and gather the knights again. When he was 96, the Empire was desperate and crazy. They offered the demons 3 million lives of its own citizens just for one wish, eternal life. But he died in the process and summoned the Lord of Chaos in the capital city. He had to gather his knights again and take out the Holy Sword, which wasn't still dry from the blood of the orcs he had massacred, and take them to the Empire. By age 121, despite his best efforts, the world was being destroyed unlike his wishes. He tried to defeat all evil with all of the holiness on the continent, but he couldn't stop them. While he was mourning the loss of a friend, a knight approached him. He told the knight to be proud of his father, who died with honor and joined the feast of the gods. While he rallied the knights again, he asked the goddess if she could see her lambs trembling in fear. The youth gathering the dying flame of resistance and the knights trying to plant a seed of hope in a wasteland soaked in blood. He asked the knights if they heard the souls of the evil outside, the evil that stole their brothers and their loved ones, the evil that violated everything. He told the knights to enrage, and enrage eternally, at the fools who were deceived with a false sense of victory. He told them to remember that as long as they had their honor, they could never be defeated. He pulled out his holy lance while asking the goddess in his thoughts what he was supposed to do. She told her beloved knight that she was with him until the very end. While lifting the flag of his kingdom, he ordered all the knights to charge in the name of honor and Lionheart. That winter they fought the final battle against the billions of devils that filled the world. Barbarians were used as meat shields, as the civilian knights armed with spears and shields died with honor along with the glorious knights. The chosen agents of God and all holy temples fought alone and defeated demons until the end. He tore apart countless demon lords and archdemons and showed the demons the power of a holy knight. By age 217 the winter was yet to end, and he continued his slaughter. By age 256 he destroyed the last remaining demon gate, and the demons in his world had nowhere left to escape. He pitted the evil now that they were stuck in the world with him. He promised to eradicate them thoroughly, and he kept his promise. By age 300 he killed one of the last remaining archdemons. A group of people standing next to a portal wondered how he managed to kill an archdemon with just one slash. He told them to rise up and keep fighting. Flustered, the girl asked who he was, and he told them that he was King Lionheart, the knight of the glorious knights and the agent who carries out the will of the holy temple. King Lyon Dragonia Lionheart. While being completely naked, by age 300 he came across earthlings and eradicated all living demons in his world. The portal he was inside just suddenly appeared in the middle of the city and had an unidentifiable black aura. The Adventurers Association had requested the nation's largest guilds to participate together in a large raid. But the requests were all denied due to the fact that the difficulty of the portal was unknown. In the end, the government had ordered the association to go inside themselves, which was basically an execution order. And that was where she saw a naked man in front of a sea of monster corpses. Her name was Hari, the associate manager of the Adventurers Association. Her superior handed her a cup of coffee while asking if she was tired. The head manager asked how her interview went. She told him that no one believed her. He told Hari that it was to be expected since it was a black-rank demon gate with a greater devil inside, and coming out alive without any help from the other guilds was already a miracle. But to have cleared it, that too all because of one man, was deemed impossible by others. Hari asked if Lyon was really a survivor from inside the portal. The head manager said that he was indeed a survivor from the other world. This wasn't uncommon, as there were cases of people managing to survive the portal realms. These portals appeared out of nowhere around 30 years ago, and almost always the realms inside the portals were worlds that had been destroyed, or those which were almost destroyed. And sometimes the survivors were brought back to Earth, while keeping the unimaginable strength they had earned by fighting demons. The government tried their best to cater to the needs of these survivors and set plans to scout them. Hari said that they needed to scout Lyon no matter what. The head manager said that she was right. Even an A-rank adventurer had to risk their life when fighting high-ranking demons, but Lyon had managed to kill the archdemon in just one attack. The monster that even the most skilled among the S-ranks were afraid of. He didn't just kill it, he completely overpowered it to the point where it started running away from him in fear. The head manager said that what he was most worried about was the difference in their culture, since the way Lyon referred to himself looked like he was royalty. Hari said that they would be fine. She said that she felt like he was a very good person from when they first met. Lyon shouted at the man interrogating him, calling him a lowly being. His shout shattered the thick, bulletproof glass. Lyon asked how the interrogator dared to dirty the glorious Lionheart name. The manager asked if Hari still thought of him as a very good person. Hari looked away and said that it might have been a cultural difference. 15 minutes earlier inside the interrogation room, Lyon thought that this new world felt very foreign to him, which was a given, as he was born royalty and became a king in his 30s, and remained king until the present when he was 300 years old. After conquering all the demons in his world, he went into their world and hunted them for almost 200 years non-stop. The interrogator greeted Lyon as Lyon Dragonia Lionheart. Lyon told the peasant to refer to him as His Majesty. The bald man was taken by surprise, but played along with Lyon. Lyon was analyzing how the government dealt with approaching the people they called survivors like him by deliberately being rude. The interrogator asked if Lyon truly killed all the demons in the realm the human adventurers found him in. Lyon said that it was obvious that he did. He asked if the interrogator already forgot that he killed all the evil species and protected the honor of the knights. He ordered the Baldy to be his temporary secretary and bestowed upon him the privilege of recording the glorious incident. The bald man thanked him and wrote it down. Lyon then asked if they had no etiquette rules for how they treated royalty around here. The Baldy immediately understood that Lyon was saying he was hungry and quickly typed on his phone for some food to be delivered to Lyon. Lyon also asked the Baldy to tell him more about Earth. The Baldy said that he understood and started explaining that the nightmare they were living in began 30 years ago when the portals appeared all around the world and monsters and demons started pouring out of them. After that, Earth was in a constant state of emergency. After taking a lot of losses, they realized that each of these portals had a certain theme and a clear quest, which if left unattended would allow the monsters to invade into Earth. Just then someone knocked on the door and the Baldy said that it was Lyon's meal. Lyon thought that it was a bit different in his world. In his world, the demons just appeared like mushrooms after rain. But in this world, they had themes and quests, as if it was to train the humans through trials. The Baldy came back inside with a tray of food and placed it in front of Lyon. Lyon looked at it with disgust. He asked the Baldy what he was just served, and the Baldy said that it was called xiaoliang tang, also known as the soul food of the peasants. Lyon's eyes started glowing when he heard the word peasants. He smashed the table while asking if the inferior human was mocking the glorious Lionheart name. He asked how the Baldy dared to serve a royal a peasant's dish. Lyon asked if this was how the Earthlings treated another kingdom's royals. Lyon, the otherworldly royal also known as the proxy for the gods, guardian of the Holy Grail, and the owner of the Holy Blade and the Holy Spear. The slaughterer of the Lord of Chaos, Malice, and the Lord of the 23 great devils, the arch-nemesis of all demons, and the one who had massacred millions of demons. The incarnation of the history of the 300-year war itself. And what he thought about Earth was that it was a mess. He thought that this was all because there was no proper religious faith, and enlightening the foolish peasants was the duty of the royal family. Even though this wasn't his world, he was still a king. They finally provided him with food fit for a royal to calm him down. Hari and the manager were glad that he at least accepted the T-bone steak and vintage wine. The manager told Hari to go talk to him next. Hari said that she couldn't use historical language. The manager said that Lyon might be a little more interested in people he met in the field, since she was spotted by him fighting the demon in the portal. She slowly opened the door and apologized for interrupting his meal. Lyon immediately noticed her as the swordsman he met in the portal and told her to take a seat. Hari smiled and gave a thumbs up behind her back to the team. She asked if the meal was to his liking. Lyon said that it wasn't bad, and that the reason he was giving them a hard time wasn't because the food was humble, but because of their attitude toward the king. He told her that when they greet royalty from a foreign nation, they should be treated as such. Hari said that it was due to her lack of knowledge that she had disrespected him. Lyon then cut the small talk and got to the point he was most interested in: the demons on Earth. He asked about the situation regarding the demons. Hari started explaining, since her only mission right now was to get him to join the Adventurers Association, or at the very least keep him in the country. She asked for Lyon's royal permission to have the government take over the task of looking after him for the time being. The motive of the intelligence war on Earth was to scout survivors like Lyon. No matter what kind of support was offered to them, they had to be stopped from joining a different country. Lyon said that as long as there were demons roaming the same world as he was, it was his duty to eradicate them as an honorable knight. Hari asked if he wanted to join the association itself to be on the field. Lyon cut her off and said that a king cannot be a soldier for another nation's military. He said that he would create a new knight's order on Earth itself. All Hari could do was nod. Later she asked what the higher-ups said to her head manager. The manager said that the higher-ups were in no position to refuse support to Lyon, and that it was great enough news that he didn't decide to leave the country or join a big guild. Hari sulked while asking why the whole organization under the government had to bend its knee to one man. She said that it was the fault of the big guilds who flaunted their money and stole the survivors. Just then the building went on red alert. Some kind of dungeon break. The head manager said that this dungeon break could cripple the nation's food production. Hari asked if the S-rank adventurer from Phoenix wasn't around the dungeon break location, and that he could easily deal with an orange-colored portal on his own. The head manager said that the guild wouldn't make a move unless they had profit directly, and that the association was on their own again. Lyon could hear everything they were saying. He understood from their conversation that once a dungeon breaks in an area, the area around the portal gets corrupted and crops don't grow there anymore. He had expected as much. He used his divine powers to establish communication with Demera. Demera heard his call and smiled. Meanwhile, at the location of the portal, the Phoenix S-rank Yongwan was waiting for the people from the association to arrive. He noticed that it was Manager Kim and Hari who were there. Manager Kim realized that the Phoenix Guild had deliberately let the dungeon break happen just because one of their requests wasn't accepted. The Phoenix Guild had been continuously requesting a tax exemption for the profits of the portals. They had made a lot of profit from the byproducts obtained within the portals, like magic crystals, armor, or weapons. They wanted exemption from profits reaching about 1 trillion, even though they already had a lot of benefits as a large guild. Hari told Yongwan that they had to close the portal as soon as possible. Yongwan said that he knew what happened, that the authority of the portal would be handed over. He said that he couldn't do anything since his guild members were gravely injured and they couldn't raid in that state. Clearly lying. He said that they might try to clear it the next day if they felt like it. Hari asked if he had even an ounce of patriotism in him. She asked if he knew what would happen if the rice fields were corrupted. He laughed and said that he didn't know. She told him to stop being so childish. He reminded her that he had told her in last year's draft that in this world justice was money and power. Lyon appeared behind them and called them shallow and old-fashioned. Hari asked what Lyon was doing there. Lyon told Hari to stop saying the king's name so lightly and that she was only permitted to call him by his title. The S-ranker tried to talk to Lyon, and Lyon immediately shut him up, asking how someone as lowly as him even dared to talk in Lyon's presence. Yongwan, now angry, wondered who in their right mind would pick a fight with one of the top 20 strongest in the world. He started using his power, saying that it was time for Lyon to die. Hari warned Yongwan to stop, saying that Lyon was a survivor. After hearing that, Yongwan's attitude made a complete 180. He started being polite and started talking about his guild. Lyon said that he didn't like repeating himself and asked what problem Hari and the manager had. They thought that he was going to help them and accepted, telling him. She said that the dungeon was about to break and that it was going to affect a large area around the portal and that crops didn't grow anywhere near the corrupted area. She said that this plain was an important granary which was needed to supply the country's basic needs. She told him that the ground had already begun being infected with demonic energy. Lyon asked what the solution was. She quickly answered that they had to clear the dungeon to purify the area and also get rid of the dungeon completely. Lyon said that he understood. He told Hari to call her forces, and said that as soon as the time limit for Phoenix Guild to finish the dungeon passed, the king himself would step inside. Hari asked if he was really going to help them. Lyon said that a king from a foreign land cannot do military activities in another territory as he pleases. He said that he first needed to get permission from the nation's king. Hari said that it was probably not that big of a deal. Lyon said that there was a legitimate process for everything. He said that he couldn't call himself an honorable knight if he didn't abide by the laws of his nation. He told Hari to quickly send word to her king. Yongwan thought that Lyon was way harder to deal with than himself. In the end, they had to contact the president for permission. Later that night, Hari went to Lyon and said that she had completed the preparations he had asked her to do. She showed a straw doll and asked how that was supposed to help them. Lyon said that it was needed to purify the land. Hari asked how a straw doll would purify the land. Lyon had made 2 requests while accepting to help them, one of them being a straw doll. He asked if all dolls were made by married women, and Hari said that they were. The second request was that the people who made the dolls must be mothers. He went into the room and asked everyone to present their dolls. The first doll, he said, was impossible. He spread it into pieces and asked if she really called that monstrosity a doll. The second one he called disgraceful. The third he questioned if the creator of the doll was actually a mother. After going through almost all the dolls, the doll that caught Lyon's eyes was made by an old woman. Impressed, he asked how many children the grandma had. The grandma said that she had 12. Lyon said that he normally sent personal knights with a medal and gifts. However, due to the situation he couldn't, and asked the old lady to forgive him. He took the straw doll to the plains and set up a table. Using his magic, he summoned the Holy Grail and called upon the mother of the abundant land. He said that the people of Earth had offered her a doll of harvest and asked her to receive it. The Grail started to glow and began filling up with golden liquid. The sun started to rise and a red light tinged the clouds. A new day was waiting to start. However, this sunrise was different. As the golden liquid flowed into the straw doll, the adventurers noticed that the doll just stood on its own. As soon as the doll rose, Lyon dropped to his knees and bowed his head while greeting the Mother Earth, Demera, the god of life and abundance. A divinity had descended into the world. Demera said that it was sad to see another world also being invaded by evil and the land being contaminated. Lyon told her that there were also no divinity on Earth. He also apologized to the goddess for having the lowly and vulgar swine behind him that might sully the goddess's eyes. Demera told him that ignorance and greed cannot always be judged as sins, as they were some of the built-in characteristics of a mortal. She asked what Lyon planned to do in the future. Lyon said that it wasn't hard for him to blend amongst the swordsmen on Earth, but his authority was that of a conqueror. He promised to make sure his duty and authority would be on equal terms here as well. He said that he would teach the ignorant and lead them to the right path until a new pantheon could arise on this world. Demera reached her hand toward Lyon and asked if he had a favor to ask of her, as she was always ready to help him. Lyon asked Demera to free the citizens of Earth from the suffering caused by the evil energy. He said that he was certain it was going to place a huge burden on her, but still asked her to heal and purify the land. Demera said that Lyon was her temple's head and champion. Even though this land wasn't her body, she said she would spread her divinity in this world and substitute the land's thirst with her flesh. A droplet fell from her tiny straw doll hand into the ground, and she said that everything that walks on this earth would become Lyon's ally. As soon as the drop landed on the ground, a huge beam of divinity erupted from that spot. The plants and crops all around started healing. Lyon told everyone to open their eyes, see, and learn. He called them ignorant and stupid. He said that this was what a world blessed with divinity looked like, and that the fertile earth before them was proof of an eternal promise. Yongwan, furious, called out to Lyon, telling him to stop scamming people, and that it was basic knowledge that crops grown using magic were poisonous to humans. Lyon asked if the lowly human just dared to call the crops blessed with divinity poison. Yongwan tried to insult the straw doll, but Lyon cut him off, saying that if Yongwan dared to even remotely insult his goddess with his dirty tongue, he would be treated as any other demon. Yongwan shut up, but he wasn't ready to let it go. His plans were all ruined because of Lyon. He said that he would expose Lyon's blatant lies. He said they still needed proof and told Lyon to cooperate if he was truly confident in these crops for the sake of the people who would be eating them. He said that one of his members was a skilled appraiser and ordered him to appraise the crop. The member used his skill on the crop and couldn't believe what he was seeing. The rice was indeed blessed. The appraiser said that all the rice was rare rank and could cure any tier 3 diseases and even cancer. Lyon said that it was only fitting for a blessed crop to cure diseases. The manager sent someone to get a cooking pot from the chief's house nearby. They started cooking the rice right there in the field. As soon as someone ate the rice, they received various buffs. An increased rate of stamina recovery that doubled every 100 minutes, increased rate of mana recovery that doubled every 50 minutes, and the effect lasted for 8 hours. The manager wondered how simple rice could work better than potions worth more than 3 million per pot. Hari ran toward the manager and said that she had big news. The manager told her to at least finish chewing first. She did as he asked and said that she had eaten a bug out of curiosity and got a buff. A bunch of people behind the manager's head heard what she said. The manager thought that it made sense if the living beings in the area also got blessed by the goddess. He ordered his men to catch as many bugs as they could so they could take them inside the portals. Demera called Lyon and said that it seemed like she did what needed to be done and that she should head back now. Lyon dropped to his knees in front of her again and said that he had and never would forget the love she had shown to humans, even though some of them were openly rude to her. She placed her hand on his head, telling him that her one last request for him was to make sure he kept himself fed. The doll started glowing again, and then it fell, lifeless once more. Hari asked what that was. Lyon said that it was the goddess departing. He asked if Earth didn't have their own gods. Hari said that she wasn't sure. Lyon said that proper life and world were made with divine power and that Earthlings should keep that in mind. He said that now that the soldiers were ready, they could go inside the portal. One of the Phoenix asked if they should just be watching, as this could cause problems for their plans. He cursed at the damned survivor for ruining his plans. He thought that if it weren't for Lyon, the government would have no choice but to listen to their requests and hope that Lyon would die in the portal realm. But then he got a bright idea and started laughing to himself. He said that the portal was already half-rated. The members said that it was true and that only the most difficult monster remained. Yongwon said that they only had 1A rank, which was Hari, and that the survivor Lyon was probably a blessing type who was terrible when it came to combat. He said that this meant they would definitely fail the raid because inside the portal realm there was a monster that couldn't be defeated by ordinary means. They walked into the portal realm past the piles of bones left by the previous raiders while maintaining a tight formation. After talking to Hari, Lyon found out that these portals could be closed once the quest was cleared or the boss monster was defeated. He said that he liked the fact that you could duel with the boss monster. Hari was unable to tell him that the monsters usually gang up on them. Lyon looked at a skeleton on the ground and said that it seemed like there were a lot more monsters than he had expected. Hari said that it was the characteristic of this dungeon. Lyon asked what that meant. Hari explained that while the number of monsters usually decreased as you defeated them in most portal realms, in the case of skeletons, zombies, or even demons in some special cases, as long as the boss monster was still alive, they kept spawning more and more. Lyon said that it meant they had to defeat the boss if they needed to close this portal and said that he understood. Hari said that it was most likely a necromancer controlling the skeletons. Just then, they got an alert that all living beings inside the dungeon had been sentenced to death, and they had 3 hours to defeat the Commander Knight Dullahan to survive. The manager cursed at the Phoenix for hiding the fact that the monster inside was a Dullahan. The boss appeared in front of them with its massive army of skeletons. More skeletons spawned right in front of their eyes by the second. The adventurers asked the manager if they should start distributing the potion made from the blessed bugs. The manager told them to focus on giving it to the super rank adventurers among them. He then asked the ranger to report how many archers and mages the undead army had. The ranger said that he saw 30 archers and 2 mages so far. The manager told the members with sniping skills to take care of the long-range mobs first. He told those with shields to stop the advancing army and lastly wished everyone luck just as the wave of monsters reached him. The skeleton hit him with a sword. The hit was way harder than he thought, maybe because it was an orange rank portal. However, he dealt with the skeleton easily. Just then, he noticed a magical glow. The skeleton mages were using advanced spells. He used his taunt skill to get the mages' attention, and they attacked him. He said that he was fine thanks to his gear. But now the Dullahan was right in front of him. It hit him and sent him flying backward into a wall. Hari shouted his name. One of the mages said that they needed to save the manager and asked if they should have the reserve forces help. Hari thought that this was exactly the situation why the reserve forces were made for. She looked at Lyon and asked him to help them. Lyon stared for a second before looking at her in disgust, saying that a king should never join a small battle like this. He told her to look for ways to build her own honor, and that he couldn't believe she would try to force him to help take on some heap of moving bones. He said that it was rude to the goddess too, for making the goddess's proxy watch such a pitiful performance. Hari started sweating. The mage asked what they were supposed to do now. Hari then steeled herself, thinking that she had no time to waste and that Lyon had no intention of helping them. He seemed like he wasn't even slightly interested in anything except the Dullahan. Hari said that she would take care of the boss and asked everyone to support the manager and the front lines. She dashed toward the Dullahan, jumping onto the skeleton's face to gain height and spinning around to attack the Dullahan from behind. But it blocked her even without looking at her. She tried to attack again, but its head was right in front of her, floating in the air, blocking her view so it could punch her from her blind spot. She was unable to block it in time and got sent flying back into the ground. She managed to stop the blunt of the force somehow, but the Dullahan was already in front of her again. Hari used her skill now that they were away from her allies. She said that she needed a wide area to use her skill since she couldn't control its large radius. The horse raised up after seeing the sudden fire attack. Hari thought that she could finish the monster with the next attack. She dashed past to its back again and hit it again, but it blocked her once again. The Dullahan slashed at Hari when she was running down below. But before it could kill her, Lyon started clapping and said that the Dullahan was quite impressive. He said that it had exquisite sword skills despite using only one hand. Lyon said that he was sure the Dullahan was once a noble knight. He asked the Dullahan to allow him to apologize for mistaking such a great knight for a mere undead. He said that he, as the king of Lionheart, would allow the unknown knight the right to challenge him, saying that no more troops needed to be injured. He said they could end this fight with a noble duel between two knights. Hari and the other adventurers, as well as the undead monsters, wondered if he was crazy, saying that there was no way a monster would do something like that. But the Dullahan accepted the duel. The undead skeletons stopped attacking the humans and walked back behind the Dullahan. Lyon said that the Dullahan was truly a knight of honor. He added that he could let down his guard, as he was sure the Dullahan used to wield his weapon with two hands, and that it couldn't be a proper battle if he used it one-handed. Hari stepped forward and said that a Dullahan wouldn't die unless it was beheaded. Lyon asked why that was important. Hari started sweating again, wondering how he would ever win against it if he couldn't kill it. The Dullahan handed its head to a skeleton, and Lyon said that it didn't matter, for only the knight's honor could decide the winner. The Dullahan stood in front of him, ready. Lyon lifted his sword and declared that he was the first knight of the goddess of light and justice, Archduke Dragonia, and Lionheart's lion-hearted king. He sanctioned the honorable Dullahan knight for a challenge. The Dullahan burst forward and swung its massive sword at Lyon. Lyon stood his ground, unbothered, easily blocking the strike. He twisted his sword, causing the Dullahan's weapon to fall to the ground. He counted it as one. The Dullahan jumped back and prepared to attack again, this time from the side. Hari and the others grew worried. Lyon remarked that the Dullahan's steps were too light. Suddenly, the ground around him shattered. The adventurers didn't even know what had happened. Hari said it was amazing, and the manager asked if she saw what had happened. She explained that Lyon had changed the weight balance by tying in a sword guard, so the attack touched the blade, and on top of that, he had executed a cross cut, something no one would dare attempt. Lyon placed his sword back on the Dullahan and said this was his second attempt. He told the Dullahan to get back into position. The Dullahan thought that it had been a very long time since he'd come across a knight who treated him as a proper opponent and had formally requested a duel. People might think this was just a trick to get him off his horse, making him easier to deal with. But he called that possibility nonsense. The knight before him had a straight posture, the look of a veteran who had experienced countless battles, and starry eyes that chased honor and eminence. Lyon performed another cross cut and pushed the Dullahan's weapon back, tapping its chest once more, saying this was his third attempt, and asked if he wanted to continue. To the Dullahan, Lyon was the pinnacle of an honorable knight. The king of knights, one to be revered and challenged. He didn't want to use necromancy anymore. He just wanted to fight Lyon countless times, as a proper knight, solely blade against blade, like how he had dueled famed knights in the past when he wandered the world in pursuit of honor, a way of life he had long forgotten. After a while of dueling, Lyon disarmed the Dullahan and counted his 10th attempt. He said that the Dullahan's swordsmanship was getting more precise and asked if he had recalled memories of his past life. The Dullahan grunted, thinking that Lyon had returned the glorious days of his past. Lyon asked again if the Dullahan wanted to continue, and the Dullahan grunted in agreement. The skeleton holding the Dullahan's head stepped forward. It took back its head, wondering how long it had been causing these massacres, how long it had repeatedly fought without honor. It thought that if it could curse its journey like this, there would be no greater joy than kneeling in front of Lyon and placing its head back in its rightful place. Lyon said that he was overjoyed to see that one of his lost brethren had regained his honor. He placed his hand on the Dullahan's head and offered to pray for him. He prayed that if there was a god the Dullahan believed in, that God would grant his soul rest. If not, then his own goddess would accept and guide the Dullahan to the end of the god's garden. He wished to someday meet the great knight at the banquet halls of the gods. The whole room began to glow, and the Dullahan started fading away, revealing its original body. Later, after going outside, Hari and the manager still couldn't believe how things ended. Hari said that the light had been too bright for her to see what had happened. The manager said that it might have been divine power, since all the undead disappeared afterward. Hari said that Lyon should have used that skill from the start if that was the case. Lyon said that if he had done so, the Honorable would have met his end as a Dullahan. He declared that knights live for honor, and honor comes from action, and action from will. The Dullahan had received what he deserved as a noble knight. Then Lyon walked past, saying he was going to fetch his loot. Where there is battle, there is loot. And finders keepers, in my books. He retrieved the Dullahan's sword and a mana crystal. The manager said that it looked like it contained tremendous mana. Hari noted that the greatsword and the cape also looked powerful. Lyon stared at the demonic energy radiating from the crystal. The manager said it would fetch a lot of money. Lyon cut him off, destroying the crystal while calling it garbage. The whole camp stared, as if their commission had just been cut in half. Lyon said that a crystal like that only brings chaos. Hari sighed deeply as she pushed a food trolley through the hotel lobby, dark circles under her eyes betraying her exhaustion. It had only been 4 days since Lyon arrived on Earth, but it felt like a lifetime. First, there was a minor tax dispute. Lyon asked how Hari could dare discuss taxes with a king from another nation. Hari retorted that he could play with mana stones instead. Lyon dismissed it as mere coin talk, insisting that such matters were for those beneath him. Despite the chaos, they gained new followers after introducing divine power to the land. When farmers asked how much tithe they should pay, Lyon generously declared they only needed to give him 90% of their yield. An old farmer protested that taxes and living costs were already unbearable. Lyon calmly asked why the farmer worried about hunger as a follower of the goddess, promising that the guild would handle welfare, living costs, and food. Hari chimed in, revealing that the blessed rice had an appraisal value of over 150 million for just 80 kilograms. The farmer fell to his knees, swearing complete faith in the goddess. The biggest headache for Hari, however, was Lyon's residence. Upon arrival, Lyon had demanded luxurious bedding, ever-present servants, and artwork to admire. Hari spent nights calling 5-star hotels, and they compromised on placing a painting or ceramic piece in his room. She barely managed to convince him to sleep. Now, as Hari approached Lyon's room to deliver his breakfast, he invited her in. After setting down the opulent meal, Lyon asked if she had eaten. She admitted she hadn't, and he advised her not to skip meals. Hari smiled to herself, already picturing the scene when she had her sandwich later. Lyon then asked Hari to sit, and her cheeks flushed with anticipation. She laughed, setting a plate for herself. Lyon, confused, asked why she was doing that instead of preparing ribs for him. She joked about sharing a meal, but Lyon scoffed, asking in which country a king shared meals with a peasant. Later, in the car, Hari informed Lyon that the association decided to provide him with support funding and resettlement aid. Though it wouldn't match a palace, they would make it as comfortable as possible. Lyon thanked her and asked her to handle it. When she asked about the loot distribution, he left it to her, but instructed her to keep the cape for himself. Arriving at the Hunter Association, she mentioned the helicopter pad for convenience and tried her best to make him like the place. Lyon, however, noticed an awkward art piece near the entrance, a poorly chosen attempt to please him. As they entered, a man approached, introducing himself as the director of Duyong Foods, a major corporation. Hari tensed, knowing how rich and influential this company was. The director, with an evil grin, extended his hand toward Lyon, who coldly asked why he would shake a mere merchant's hand. Hari explained that the association would provide Lyon a place to live for a year, including utility, rent, room service, and cleaning maids. Lyon ignored the director, and Hari wondered why he had come. Lyon noted that merchants only sought profit. It clicked in Hari's mind. The director coveted the blessed rice. Unfortunately, poor information management meant a random farmer streamed the whole encounter online. The association requested the video be removed, but the farmer simply uploaded it again. The views skyrocketed. The director, infuriated, called Lyon an arrogant savage and demanded proof from scientists that the rice worked. One scientist claimed certainty despite lacking human testing, but the assistant revealed they had gathered anecdotal evidence. Recoveries of a dying dog, chronic illnesses suddenly alleviated, and entire villages cured after consuming the rice. The director smirked, then recalled Lyon and insulted him. The assistant insisted they had to obtain the rice at all costs. The director slammed his hand on the table, demanding to prove Lyon wrong. Smirking, he pulled out his phone, plotting to overpower Lyon with nothing but cultural shock. When returning to Earth with the Earthlings, Lyon first decided to spread faith in divinity. Though Earth was already home to many gods and followers, there was no true divine power present. Gods were meant to embrace faith and bless the world, but instead, humans were falling ill, and the land was being corrupted. To wield divine power, a new faith was necessary, a new god for more people to believe in. Secondly, Lyon knew he had to reform the Knights Templar, an organization of elite fighters who channeled divine power. If the guardian of the Holy Grail, the King of Lionheart, was regarded as a demigod, then the Knights Templar were the saints, those who wielded God-given power to eradicate terror and evil. Lastly, in order to massacre all the evil thriving on the land, recover divine power, and raise the Knights Templar, there was a need to spread faith and maintain balance and order within the pantheon to raise the Knights Templar. It may have been expecting too much to wish for Knights Templar in a place like this, but he had to carry out his duties nonetheless. Hari calls to him while he was thinking. Hari says that someone had asked for an audience with him. Lyon says that he had no reason to refuse if they had gone through proper procedures. As soon as they come in, they thank Lyon for accepting their request. It's the director of Duyong again. He thinks that he was willing to bow down to a stupid savage if it meant he could rake in profit. He says that he had brought a gift for Lyon. One of his men pushes forward a case, and he asks Lyon to accept the gift, while thinking that Lyon would be off his seat the second he sees what's inside. Top-tier luxurious items that he thought a savage like Lyon would never have dreamed about. He thinks that this would make Lyon beg him to let him be Lyon's manager. Lyon says that since they went through all that effort, he had no choice but to accept it. He says that he will take it. The director wonders what was up with his attitude, acting as if he was doing them a favor by accepting the gift. He asks if Lyon wanted to check what was inside, sure that Lyon would like it. Lyon feels annoyed now, but doesn't want to waste his time to teach them etiquette and asks Hari to open it instead. Hari walks up to the case and opens it, surprised to see what was inside. The director says that they were the most elite weapons prized by his company. He says that Lyon could choose anyone he likes. Hari asks if they were all the unique rank items crafted by the master craftsmen of the Duyong group, and the director says that she was right. He says that he heard Lyon was going to be working as an adventurer and thought these weapons would be a great help to him. Hari wonders if Duyong group would really hand over their unique rank weapons just like this. Weapons that even money can't buy. She had only seen a few of them in a YouTube video tier list before. Lyon asks what he was supposed to do with low-rank, cheap weapons. Hari and the director unanimously ask what he meant by low rank. Lyon explains that a proper weapon is made from material from a star and blessed by a holy being. He asks if they really used these weapons to hunt demons. The director wonders what Lyon was even saying, wondering if maybe he wanted them to get a priest to bless them and have them dry in the sun. Lyon calls the director an unfaithful merchant, but the director says that it was just a misunderstanding. Lyon says that merchants were bound to show off their items wherever they went. He says that even though he knows that the only things those weapons could kill are chickens and cows, he was willing to test them. While pulling out his sword, the director stares at the sword and wonders if this was all Lyon had, to underestimate his weapons, and starts smiling, thinking that he already won. He says that he was willing to see what Lyon's sword was capable of. He tells Hari to pick one of his weapons. Hari looks at Lyon to get his permission, and he just nods. She goes up to the case and pulls out the sword she had been admiring for 4 years. A sword made by a master craftsman. A named sword called Dawn. She could feel its power. It felt as if it had absorbed the dense sun energy from within the portal realm. She asks if she could really use it once again. Lyon asks why she keeps asking to swing a toy around. Hari prepares to hit Lyon's sword. Lyon just waits while holding his sword up, already knowing what was going to happen. Hari uses her full power to swing and shatters the sword. Everyone except Lyon was surprised to see a unique rank sword not even leave a minute dent in his sword. Lyon says that the sword was even worse than he thought, and says that the craftsman was wasting time, and advises them to look for another profession. He says that he was going to shorten the duration of the meeting to 3 minutes for wasting his time. The director was still in denial, saying that there was no way. After that, He stops the act and bows his head and says that they were there to patent the rights over the rice grains. Lyon asks what that meant. The director says that they were willing to pay a huge sum of money. He says that they had calculated that the whole field was evaluated to be around 180 billion. Of course, it was a lot more than that, as the rice was said to have properties to cure even cancer, but the director was set on making every touch of profit he could. He thought that there was no way a savage like Lyon would know the value of 180 billion and go crazy once he explained how much that was worth. Lyon asks if the director was asking to buy the rice with money. The director thinks that he hooked Lyon with this one. He says that the director was right, and that Lyon would of course need to sign a contract saying that Duyong Group will have the monopoly over the rice. He then even asks if he should raise the price by a bit, but Lyon cuts him off and calls him an imbecile merchant. Lyon furiously glares at the director and asks how he dared to insult divinity like this. The director and his men feel the air getting sucked out of their lungs, and their impending death if they made one more wrong move. Lyon calls them fools, confessing their sins in front of the proxy of justice. The director falls to his knees, saying that he really doesn't know his mistake. Lyon asks how ignorant and uncivilized one can be. He explains that the crops the director was talking about were born from the land blessed by the dear goddess Demera. Blessings given as a reward for the farmers who sweat and go through the labor in the fields. Something that can't be bought with money. A grateful heart and faith are what was required as payment. Lyon says that the man-child in front of him only chases after his own profits by deceiving others in the process, and asks why Lyon would share his goddess's blessing with someone like him. Later that day, Hari asks if it was really okay to just let him go like that. She says that even if he only looked like a lowly corrupt merchant in Lyon's eyes, he had great influence on Earth. Lyon says that it was not even something worth caring about as he was not affected by someone as vulgar as him. He then asks if the thing he asked for was ready. She says that the association did notify her about something. She asks if he was planning to take the test too, saying that it made things easier if he did. Lyon looks at her, disgusted at the absurdity she just spoke. He asks if she was planning on testing a king. Confused, she asks why else he would want to go to the association. Lyon says that it was to look for useful soldiers, and that he would be the one testing. Hari says that that would be difficult, but Lyon asks her to make it possible. The next day at the association, an unaffiliated adventurer, Daesung, greets his senior. The senior also greets him, saying that he was definitely here for the retest as well. After registering for the retest, the old man listens to Daesung's story and says that he sure did work really hard. He asks if Daesung thinks he could get a higher rank this year. Daesung says that all he could do was try his best. The old man asks why Daesung doesn't just join his team. He thinks that even those who were not talented at all get a C rank evaluation, but Daesung had been stuck in D rank for about 10 years now. The old man says that Daesung was very dedicated and good at his job and bets that Daesung could become an ace real fast. Even though people call it hard labor, he says that being in the mining team wasn't that bad. Daesung says that he agrees since he had been doing it for 10 years now himself, but he says that he had to try to get a bit more since it was hard to pay off the interest if it weren't for the pay he received from the dungeon raid. And considering his family condition, he had to risk at least getting a C rank in order to stop being a burden. The old man suddenly notices a foreigner in the building. Daesung also thinks that the man looks European, and the old man assumes that he was a foreign laborer. Daesung says that he looked more like a royal. The old man calls out to Lyon and tries to talk in broken English. Lyon asks why the peasant was talking to him, furious. The old man is left speechless. He says that Lyon might have learned Korean a bit weirdly. While going away, Lyon suddenly stares at Daesung. Daesung starts to shake uncontrollably. The old man asks if he was all right. Daesung didn't know what was going on himself. He couldn't breathe as if something was pushing against his chest. Just then, a lady calls out Daesung and tells him to make his way to interview room 2. While looking around, Lyon was quite disappointed. Even though he didn't come looking for particularly strong people, there wasn't even one worthy of being his soldier. He thinks that maybe it was because this was a place only the low-rank adventurers or recently awakened people came to take their tests. Lyon gets called to interview room 9. He thinks that he shouldn't have expected great things from the beginning. Inside room 9, 3 men stood around a circular object. One with the clipboard asks if his name was Lyon. Lyon tells the peasant to call him His Majesty. The man apologizes and calls him as asked. They then ask him to place his hand on the measuring device for the test. Lyon looks at the object for a second and notices the clipboard. He calls the man a fool. He asks how a peasant dared to try to test the honor of a knight. The man says that they weren't the ones doing the test, that it was a machine. He asks how a mere machine was capable of measuring the strength of a knight. He tells them that only honorable knights and gods can measure the power of knights. The man wonders why Lyon even came there if he didn't want to take the test. Lyon says that he came just to look for useful soldiers, but even the judges in the places were abysmal. He says that he doesn't like anyone here and asks where the next test was. One of the judges says that there was a test at the portal. Lyon says that this was good since real skills were only shown through consistent training and realistic situations. He says that he will go take a look himself. The man wonders if this meant he was going to participate himself. Inside the portal realm, Daesung asks if anyone was feeling dizzy or anything, as some people suffered from motion sickness when passing through the portals. While most portals are usually created and closed, some were left open for training and testing. The strength measurement test that people could take every year. In order to raise his rank, he had to do better in this portal than the last year. A girl starts taking pictures of the realm, asking if the place wasn't really beautiful. Her brother tells her to turn off her phone. Daesung starts sweating after seeing that he had to take the test with two newbies and an old man who was over 60, along with the foreigner he saw in the lobby. Daesung assumes that Lyon also was a newbie because of how young he looked. He wonders if he could really work with three newbies. Once everyone was inside, they started off with introductions. Daesung says that this was his 10th year as an adventurer and that his position was that of a damage dealer. The boy introduces himself as Taehoon, a newly awakened adventurer who uses a spear and a shield. His sister says that her name is Lyon, and that she mainly uses a dagger, and that she has been learning to use the bow and arrow also. Daesung thinks that they were complete beginners seeing that they haven't even found their main weapon yet. He asks if the two had gone to a training center. They both proudly say that they have been to one for 3 months, meaning that they were absolute newbies. He then asks the old man. The old man says that this was his 5th year as an adventurer, but he had recently retired. Daesung notes that the old man had a little experience, but his weapon was a gauntlet which was going to be hard to make use of seeing his condition. Then lastly, they look at Lyon and ask if he can speak Korean. Lyon looks at them confused. He says that he wasn't there to fight, that he couldn't use his blessed sword made for slaying dragon lords to kill some chickens. Daesung wonders who even taught him to speak in such an old-fashioned way. While walking through the forest, Daesung says that for this test, they had to hunt 50 kobolds. The inspector says that sometimes gnolls could also pop out in the field, and that if he considered it too dangerous for them to handle, he would call it off and asks them not to worry and to show their skills. Daesung wasn't still convinced that the test was going to be easy. Just a while ago, when he had asked if Lyon hadn't brought his weapon, Lyon tried to borrow him her bow while calling him the handsome guy and asked if he had used it before. Lyon asks if she wanted the king to use a bow. She says that he could give it back once he was done. He gets furious and throws it onto the ground, saying that a knight doesn't use a long-range weapon like a coward. Daesung almost teared up seeing this unfold, thinking that at this rate, the test might fail. He then says that he knows a location and asks the others to follow him as he leads them to the location. They all quickly agree since he was the most experienced among them. Then Taehoon asks if there wasn't a settlement at the end of the terrain and that he thinks they should go there to find a lot of them. Daesung says that it wasn't a good idea to go directly to the settlement with a group as small as theirs, that it was almost impossible to find a way out if they were to be surrounded. He says that they were going to hunt the kobolds that lived in the caves by setting the nearby grass or leaves on fire to get smoke into the cave. He says that they could hunt kobolds much more effectively this way. The siblings say that it was nice to have an experienced adventurer to guide them on their first adventure. Daesung says that it was nothing, but inside he wasn't proud of this method himself. He had spent countless hours studying all sorts of tutorials and raiding methods, dreaming of the day when he could enter a high-rank portal. But the only one he had ever gone into was this one. He thinks that he had to be promoted this time, wondering how long he was going to stay in D rank for. Just then, Taehoon tells him to look ahead. A group of kobolds notices them. Daesung quickly tells Taehoon to block the kobolds with his shield. When the kobold comes near him, he just whacks it with his spear, asking if those things were stupid, saying that it was too easy to block if they ran at him in a straight line. His sister warns him to stay focused. A kobold leaps at him, taking him down, but it gets killed by Daesung. He tells Taehoon to not let his guard down just because they were weak. Lyon, meanwhile, snipes a few kobolds with her bow. The old man also punches the shit out of a few of them. Daesung says that everyone was doing well and that there were only a few left. After dealing with the kobolds, he says that everyone did well. Taehoon apologizes for making a mistake, but Daesung says that it was alright since it was his first time. He says that Lyon killed 2 and the old man killed the one that went for her. He says that it was some great teamwork. He was anxious at first, but this party was pretty good. Except for the elephant in the room. He asks why the foreigner didn't do anything while the others were fighting. They complain that he was just watching from the back and ask if the judges thought this was okay from him. The judge says that he will take it into account when grading and asks them not to worry. They say that it was okay as long as the judge was fair. Daesung then tells them that they were almost near the cave. They gather some dry grass and make their way to the cave. Daesung says that they will go ahead with the plan and set fire near the entrance. They set up the dry grass near the entrance. When he was about to set fire, Lyon asks if this was truly the best Daesung could do. Daesung gets angry and asks what Lyon was saying after not helping at all. Lyon again asks if this was truly the best Daesung could do and tells him not to make him repeat himself again. Daesung says that he had used this method 3 times and had succeeded all 3 times. Lyon says not bad, that it was proof based on past experiences, but he questions how Daesung could depend on experience when he had so little of it to begin with. Daesung tells Lyon to shut his ass up as Lyon was younger than him talking about experience. He sets the fire and tells the others to gather around as the kobolds would run out soon. They all stand on guard outside, rocks ready in hand to throw. Taehoon notices them coming out first. As soon as the kobolds run out of the cave, Lyon starts shooting arrows, and the others start throwing rocks at the kobolds, making the kobolds fall into the fire. Daesung thinks that it was going as he expected, thinking that his method was the right way. He tells them that they were doing great and that they could kill off all the kobolds just like this. He thinks that with the amounts that are coming from the cave, they only need to kill a few gnolls in the plains while going back to finish the test. But then he hears a distinct roar. A gnoll captain, the boss of the portal, judged to be above rank C. It runs at them, and he wonders why it appeared there. Lyon asks what they were supposed to do about that thing, snapping Daesung out from his thought. He tells them that him and Taehoon would deal with the gnoll captain, and that Lyon and the grandpa could deal with the kobolds in the cave. They separated them in a way that each team would have 1 person with experience. Sending the 2 inexperienced siblings to deal with the gnoll would have been an act of suicide. He trusts Taehoon to hold out for a little bit until the other 2 are done, even though he is a beginner. Taehoon immediately starts feeling a sense of fear after getting close to the gnoll, after seeing the size difference. The gnoll roars at him, and he gets completely intimidated by the monster. Daesung tries to tell him to get himself together. The gnoll swings its sword at him, and Daesung thinks that Taehoon won't be able to block the attack if he continued to be in this state. The attack sends him down to his knees, and the shield flies off to the side. Daesung tells Taehoon to get up and run, but he was too scared to do anything. Daesung looks at the judge who was supposed to stop the fight when things got ugly, but he wasn't doing anything but observing calmly. Daesung thinks that Taehoon would surely die at this rate. He curses and takes off running to grab the shield and runs towards the gnoll. The gnoll tries to finish off Taehoon, who is sitting on the ground helpless. When it swings at him, it hits the shield again. Daesung manages to stop the hit and pushes the gnoll's sword to the side. The gnoll gets angry and attacks again. He wonders if he could really stop 1 more of these attacks. He thinks that they might have actually defeated that gnoll if Taehoon pulled himself together. Lyon says that it wasn't so bad, stopping the gnoll with 2 of his fingers. He tells Daesung to try again. Daesung asks what Lyon meant by that. Lyon tells him to raise his shield again and face the gnoll again, asking if he could do it again after seeing him do it once. Daesung wonders if Lyon was crazy. He lets go of the gnoll's weapon and tells it to attack Daesung again. Daesung asks if Lyon even sees the situation they were in, saying that their lives were at stake. Lyon calls him an impertinent peasant and asks if he dared to defy Lyon after witnessing the glory of the king of the Lionheart's guidance. He says that for a Templar like him to guide a peasant soldier was an honor to be passed down for generations. He once again tells Daesung to raise his shield to block and counterattack. He wonders if he was the one who was in the wrong, but he had to do something in order to survive. The Gnoll remembers that it was a boss monster and roars at Lyon. Lyon glares at it and asks if the rabid dog just barked at him. It might be a monster, but it ain't stupid. While whimpering in fear, it gets back in position and starts attacking Daesung again. He manages to block it again, although it was so strong that he almost dropped the shield. Lyon calls him a fool, asking why he was trying to fight with strength when he was only wielding a shield. He tells him to not face stronger opponents head-on, and deflect its attacks, and look for an opening. He asks how Daesung plans on succeeding in a battle by only defending. He asks if Daesung thinks his opponent is a scarecrow that would wither away if he waited long enough. He tells Daesung to use his head a little and think. Daesung asks what he is supposed to do. Lyon kicks his leg and tells him not to look away from his enemy. He almost died after looking away. Lyon tells him to focus and not let his potential rot like this, saying that Daesung could do better if he tried. Daesung wonders what potential Lyon was talking about. He thinks that it was impossible for someone like him to suddenly gain potential just because Lyon thinks that way. He still decides to listen. When the Gnoll goes for its next attack, he screams, focusing on the Gnoll's blade, and parries it perfectly to deflect it away from him. He says that he didn't do it. He says that he really did it, but the Gnoll wasn't waiting for him to finish celebrating. He gets punched in the face, sending him flying. Lyon clicks his tongue, saying that Daesung wasn't able to see the full picture even after he personally guided him. His final evaluation this year was also ranked D, meaning he failed to get promoted. Later, the president of the association asks if Lyon already knew from the beginning. Lyon says that it was obvious since a warrior like the president wouldn't be a mere mercenary. The president says that he used to disguise a mask that made him unnoticeable, but it was pointless after all. The president asks if Lyon got what he wanted out of the evaluation. Lyon says that he found a potential soldier, but only time will tell if he was truly worthy. Lyon also tells the president to stop being so anxious, as he had no plans of going to another country. The president says that Lyon seems to know exactly what he was thinking. He admits that he was nervous because of all the power Lyon had displayed. Even though it was a C-rank boss, he started scolding the monster for staring at his esteemed face and treated it like it was a toy. Lyon says that dirty things like that weren't worthy of even being a toy. The president says that the association can help Lyon if he wished to start a guild. The president says that he was sure Lyon was aware that there was nothing better than fame when you want to establish an organization of people, and that there weren't many ways to become famous in this day and age. He tells Lyon about a portal that had turned red because of a failed raid, and that no one had been able to clear it for about a year. He asks Lyon to either destroy or obtain the Jewel of Wisdom guarded by the boss of the Red Portal Realm, JGD Spinner. The portal was first raided by a guild called KPP. After walking for a while, they came across some form of a city, a modern civilization, perhaps a more developed civilization than that of Earth. An archer girl says that the place had a futuristic cool look. The party leader says that it was to be expected to get a place like this after seeing the worlds from other portals. One of the members asked what they were supposed to do in such a large city. The leader says that it was a pain to look for the boss and asks them to revise the plan and start forming organized parties. He says that they had already arranged that, thinking they would have to fight against a few very strong opponents. The leader notices a huge building nearby and tells them to set up camp inside that building to have a good vantage point. After making their way up and surveying the area, he asks if the members saw anything. The member says that there was nothing at all, no monster or life, for that matter. He asks if they spotted the boss at all. The member says that he doesn't see the boss either. The leader says that it was quite strange for a city this big to have no people or monsters, but he was glad that he wasn't up against a resistance army or some evil authoritarian army. He asks the guild members to group up. He tells them that they still lack the information about the boss JGD Spinner. He tells them to keep a lookout on all surrounding areas around the clock while he selects an expedition team to map the area, but before he finishes the sentence, half of his body gets blown up by a laser beam from outside. The members watch as he falls to the ground. It takes a second for them to spring into action and try to find cover. The robot that shot the leader starts shooting rockets at the window. They run away from the explosion. One of the members can't make sense of the situation. An A-rank tanker just got evaporated without even being able to react. He says that they were all going to die at this rate and asks the archer girl if she found the enemy's location. She says that the beam came from 3 o'clock, but she wasn't able to measure the distance because of the sand dust. He says that they can't hold this position much longer, and the building seems to be giving in. He orders everyone to fall back outside before the building collapses. The archer asks what they were supposed to do about the guildmaster's corpse. The acting leader says that they could come back after recuperating. He orders her to hurry ahead and check the exit. She dashes forward and says that she doesn't sense anything outside and thinks the exit is safe. But as soon as she runs outside, she stops moving. A sudden sense of pain spreads around her neck, then around her whole body. When the others reach the exit, she explodes into pieces right in front of them. There were razor-sharp wires outside. Everywhere. The acting leader wonders when this even happened, because there was nothing when they walked in. He tells the remaining members to sever all the wires so that they could get out of there. He tells them to imbue mana into their weapons to cut the wires, as they weren't normal wires. All the while wondering who his enemy even was or how long it had been watching them for. Meanwhile, high up on a skyscraper, JGD Spinner prepares its next attack, using some kind of blue thread aimed at the group of people. The acting leader notices it too late. As soon as it makes contact, it explodes. He groans in pain and then gains consciousness. One arm missing. He tells his enemies to show themselves. And JGD Spinner appears in front of him. He asks if that robot was JGD Spinner. The blue thread was his primary weapon that was given to him, so he could fight even if he was out of ammo. He walks closer to the last remaining human, who was cursing at him for killing his friends. The robot uses the blue thread again, cutting the last guy into pieces. Because his orders were to protect this city. Out of the guild of 58 strong, not even one survived the portal raid, and this particular portal raid was indefinitely paused after 2 other guilds tried their luck and were annihilated, leaving no survivors each time. Until now. The man drops his warhammer to the ground, saying that the weather inside the portal was just as bad as he saw in the video. The lady next to him says that they should avoid entering the city since there was a higher likelihood of JGD Spinner appearing the deeper they went into the portal realm. A man from a different guild says that his guild will take the Jewel of Wisdom for themselves, while the rest of the rewards and the 60 billion clear reward go to the others. But then both of them look to the side. The man with the dreads was the leader of one of the top 10 guilds in the world, S-rank adventurer Gium, his sister the vice leader, and an A-rank adventurer Yona. The white-haired one was a near S-rank mage called Gil from the Magic Tower. Both were 50 strong. And the ones they were staring at were pouring tea while being extremely polite. Hari and the one drinking the tea, Lyon. Lyon asks what the flavor of the tea was. Hari says that it was barley tea. After they set up camp on the outskirts of the city to prepare for the raid, Lyon asks why Hari had a weird look on her face. She says that she was worried about things going smoothly, but at the same time not going smoothly as well. She says that she thinks the best possible scenario for them is if things went well without him having to step in, but then he wouldn't get a chance to gain fame. He agrees and says that if the king didn't need to step in, then the situation wasn't bad to begin with. He asks what she thought his duty was back in his kingdom. She asks if it wasn't to rule. He says that was a given, but anyone could take on that role. Unless a person has hubris, he assumes that most rulers would be the same. She thinks for a second about what the King of Knights title could mean. She remembers that whenever he had stepped in, it was only when the attack couldn't be blocked. She tries to answer the question, but Lyon answers it himself. His duty was to be the last fortress. He says that the fact that the King of Lionheart has to step in was the greatest shame to his knights and should show the seriousness of the situation. Coincidentally enough, it seems to him like he had to step in again in place of all the pitiful weaklings around him. Hari says that the raid team had 2 S ranks and also another A rank apart from her. He asks if those were called adventurers, although he admits that they were rather strong for ordinary humans, but they don't know war. He asks who decided that the outskirts of the city were safe. He says that they sure seemed confident about the information despite having only encountered the enemy 3 times. He asks if they really called themselves a raid party. Analyze the pattern of the monsters and respond accordingly, they said. He finds it comical. Lyon says that a true general knows how to respond accordingly to the given situation. There is no pattern in their attacks. And from what he had heard about JGD Spinner, he seems like a one-of-a-kind talented warlord. Just as he says that, there are huge explosions all around the campsite. She used to call him Yappy. She apologizes to him for leaving him behind, but before she died, she asked if he could do one last favor for her. His last order was to remove all unidentified beings who invaded the city. He uses explosive ammunition to rain down fire directly into the enemy camp. They scrambled to take cover, but it was useless. He could see them no matter where they hid. He charges a pulse gun to fire an energy beam directly at a huge cluster of people, burying them within seconds under the cover they had gone into to protect themselves, demolishing a whole building. Those who survived wondered if this raid was truly worth it. Spinner confirms a loss of 23% among the unidentified beings. He starts the pulse gun again, but GM jumps at Spinner with his warhammer, shouting, "Spinner, die!" He had turned off all sensors to try to charge the pulse gun faster, but he gets hit from his blind spot. His main joint region was damaged, and the internal pressure started increasing. He changes priority to deal with GM first. GM says that it was too late. He hits his sister, Little GM, and she screams while saying that she already told him to stop calling her that, landing on Spinner with full force. Her brother says that she did well. The mage then attacks it with an electrical attack and says that he will take over from here. Spinner's radar was down. Emergency resources were permitted to be used, and he activated all eyes inside the city. Immediately, any equipment that can hear or see lights up. He labels the mage as the highest risk factor and prioritizes his removal. Immediately, he bursts off. The adventurers try to chase him. Spinner aims his gun behind and shoots to stop them. The mage says that he will activate a distortion force field and asks everyone to gather around. He creates a huge dome around them. As soon as the bullets hit the dome, they swerve away. Their trajectories were being altered. The mage says that this magic was created to fight JGD Spinner because he could shred through a normal defensive dome. Spinner observes the abnormal phenomenon and analyzes it. Within seconds, he calculates how to send his bullets so that the distortion would make the bullets hit the people inside. The next second, the bullets hit the first victim. The mage couldn't believe it. Spinner stops running and turns around to focus on shooting. The bullets start hitting the people inside the dome with near-perfect accuracy. One of the guild members begs the mage to turn off the distortion field, as it was too difficult to predict the bullets when they curved around like that. He says that he will turn it off and asks everyone to get ready to run. He counts from 3, but once the dome was off, one of the members tells everyone to stop moving. They were surrounded by deadly sharp wires. Spinner wasn't running away from them. He was just weaving his web. He then uses his plasma weapon to electrically charge the wires so that they can't be cut like the first raid party had done. Now they were all gathered together because of the defensive dome, but that was a mistake on their end. Now they couldn't dodge at all. He finishes charging the plasma cannon to take them all out in one shot. But then there was a horse. They could hear it thundering through toward the wire. It starts to bite off the electrically charged dead wires with ease and stops in front of Lyon. Lyon says that he missed him, sworn friend, a lot. He gets on the horse and goes to the front of the group. He calls JGD a warrior and tells him that he has shown true courage to charge into a sea of enemies alone. He praises the great warrior JGD as the king of Lionheart. JGD was completely confused. Lyon bestows upon JGD the glory of being received in his presence and the honor of a duel. He grants JGD a royal permission to fight him. The rest of the party is left speechless. They wonder if he was on some kind of crack. Spinner analyzes Lyon and declares him a simple organism. 13% power on the pulse cannon, enough to eradicate him. Lyon pulls out his holy lance and tells his sworn friend to run. The horse takes off. Spinner shoots the cannon. Lyon says that a knight is unaffected by cowardly long-range weapons, while running straight towards the projectile, with no plans to dodge it, taking it head-on. With a huge explosion, JGD suddenly gets hit with the lance. During that moment, JGD Spinner's high-performance AI calculations stopped working. He was simply unable to logically understand what was happening in front of him. He had evaluated the weapon as an outdated joust. Even though it was fast, there was a limit to the impact depending on the mass. A threat level of 0 to JGD. something not even worth doing anything about. Something that should be evaporated with a simple pulse of the railgun was what the machine had evaluated. 3 seconds before the calculated impact, the organism's shout had created a very thin barrier. A pattern different from the already recorded phenomenon, but still within estimated scope. 2 seconds before a direct clash with the projectile, Spinner estimates that the impact should get rid of the opponent even if they blocked it. 1 second before impact, the projectile was deflected. There was no external variable blocking or diverting the projectile. The projectile just decided to get deflected on its own. It was a skill easily used by the Knights Templar, as if it were breathing. A miracle possessed by the strongest fighters. An absolute rule from the world Lyon came from. A blessing that the Knights were completely invulnerable to cowardly long-range attacks. And all long-ranged attacks were useless against them. Lyon hits JGD into the building and waits for the dust to settle. JGD, now heavily damaged, still wasn't able to understand what was going on. He forcefully increases the threat level assigned to Lyon to level 5. For context, even the two S ranks were given a combined threat level evaluation of 3. JGD decides that it was best to leave the battlefield. He uses a smokescreen to run away. His creator had told Yapi to protect the city no matter what, not to let anyone approach it. He removes the damaged heavy arm and starts calculating all remaining ammunition. Only 657 bullets remaining. He decides that he has to make more handmade ammunition. He resupplies the razor wires and checks the stability of all the joints. A new model of weapon was analyzed from the enemies, and he commences modulation to make a weapon to deal with Lyon. He remembers when the creator had thanked him for protecting the city. As soon as the new weapon was ready, he begins resuming the mission. At the inner heart of the city, while walking through the alleyway, one guy at the front tells everyone to stop. He says that there is a part of a machine gun visible about 250 meters ahead and assumes that it was Spinner. He asks the long-range adventurers to make their way around the building and tells the others to wait here so that they could distract him. But he's smeared with blood from behind. When he looks back, there is nothing but blood, bones, and razor-sharp wire. He notices movement behind him and starts swinging his sword while calling JGD a gross spider, but there was nothing there. He swears that he felt him there, but his face splits in half. The next second, he gets shredded just like the others behind him. JGD adds 5 more to the tally. Just then, he hears a scream. He spots an organism running away. Threat level 0. He runs toward a cemetery and trips and falls. He begs the machine to spare him, saying he doesn't want to die. JGD walks up to the cemetery and suddenly stops. She asks Yapi if he knows that, like everyone else, she was also going to get buried here soon and be a part of the city herself. She asks if he was going to protect the city then, too. His logical reasoning was prioritizing the removal of all invaders, but for some reason, the priority was getting overwritten over and over. In the end, he silences his logical reasoning and forcefully changes the priority. The guy wonders if the machine was letting him live. JGD takes off just when the others reach the spot. He tells the mage that JGD Spinner was tired. The mage asks what he means. He says that the machine ran away instead of killing him. He says that it must be because it saw the mage coming and ran away because it knew it couldn't win. The mage says that it seems to know its limits too. They then notice that the cemetery was way cleaner than the other places in the city. After he had checked the expansion of the enemy forces around him at the cemetery, his chances of winning were more than 92%. But he still decided to retreat. The adventurers leave the cemetery thinking that the place was too creepy. The decision JGD prioritizes over the elimination of the invaders was the decision to protect the citizens, even if they were already dead. While back in his station, he estimates that there are 49 more enemies remaining. Threat level 5 was in good health. Threat level 3 also in good health. Likelihood of removing all the threats below level 1 was about 35.7%. When he was about to resume his mission, he notices someone approach him, asking if he had a good rest and if he had fun dealing with the commoners. Lyon worshipped chivalry and resented ambushes more than anything else, and always sought a fair fight. He asks if JGD was ready for his fight now. Of course, that doesn't mean the opponent would also play fair. But that wasn't reason enough for him to abandon his knightly morals. The incarnation of chivalry doesn't let anything break his will. That was what made him strong. That was what made him the chosen one. Lyon says that he shouldn't have expected honor from a machine. JGD does an emergency equipment check. 480 bullets and 4 razor wires remained. He starts shooting, but Lyon's divine law stops it. JGD analyzes the pattern and concludes that if bullets rebound from the walls, they won't be considered as an attack from him and would pass through the divine law. He starts jumping around and shooting in such a way that they would rebound to Lyon, as he had calculated the bullets to get randomly deflected. Lyon smiles and slams his legs, and debris bursts out around him, blocking the bullets. JGD stops suddenly, losing sight of his target. Just then, Lyon's lance lands where JGD was just standing. JGD manages to dodge it, but to his surprise, Lyon was on his horse again, running at JGD. JGD starts running back, while shooting, running countless calculations to deal with Lyon. Lyon tells his stallion that their enemy seems to want to play hide and seek with them. JGD swiftly gains a lot of ground on Lyon, but the horse immediately catches up somehow. All of Jag's calculations had the same answer: incomprehensible. An organic being traveling at this speed was deemed impossible from the data he had. He notices a random pole in the ground and uses it to turn his trajectory 180 degrees, now heading straight at Lyon, planning to immobilize the horse by crashing into it. Lyon tells his stallion to keep moving forward. The horse slams into JGD at high speed, sustaining no damage and sending JGD back. Lyon remarks that his sworn friend was still as lively as ever. JGD pulls out the gun again and starts shooting. When the horse runs at him again, he keeps his distance while shooting. Then he jumps off a building with explosive force to try to drop debris onto Lyon. Lyon roars, and the horse jumps up, jumping from debris to debris until they are higher than JGD. JGD had 68 ammo left, and decides to use it when they couldn't dodge. While he shoots, Lyon and his horse move straight toward JGD, the bullets deflecting off their body. Lyon shouts, "Glory to the lion hearts," as his lance pierces through JGD, straight through to the ground, leaving only half of his body, with lethal damage in inoperable condition. The girl who used to call him Yappy had told him that what was sealed in this city was never meant to be released. JGD uses his last resort self-detonation, along with all the explosives he had set in the facilities. And there was a huge explosion in the middle of the city. Back when JGD Spinner Unit 10,253 opened its eyes for the first time, it was in a storage container that smelled of oil. The man who opened the container door told him to go and protect the city and carry out its duty before getting killed by a monster. When the monster peeked inside the storage container, it got annihilated. JGD Spinner had only one goal: to support its allies and protect the city. The JGD Spinner army headed to the city and immediately defeated all the enemies, becoming heroes. The story of unmanned tanks that saved the city from a hopeless state was a sweet story for the citizens who were losing faith. The JGD Spinner became a symbol of hope. They were called the Knights of Steel. All the JGD Spinner, including unit number 10253, were remodeled, and they protected the city under the commander. They protected and protected until the city burned from the inside, and they had nothing to protect. Her final request to Unit 10253, or YAP as she called him, was to protect the city so that the sealed object would never leave the city. The last remaining battle machine received its last order, that no one could approach that orb. So alone, it built defenses around the city. It protected the city, prepared based on previous battles, protected against all invaders. Prepared, protected, until now. Lyon was standing unharmed and noticed that the cursed object must be what the machine was trying to protect. He pulls out his sword while saying that something like the Jewel of Wisdom shouldn't exist. JGD makes a last-ditch effort to stop Lyon from going near the jewel by grabbing his feet with the wire. Lyon asks how long that machine had been protecting this place, for how long the machine had been fighting on its own. Lyon calls JGD Spinner a knight of devotion and loyalty, that all living beings across all the dimensions that he had stopped from attaining the jewel should be thanking him for his service. He bestows JGD Spinner with the title of Sir and solemnly declares that JGD Spinner's quest was complete. He places his sword on the cursed jewel. The ground around them starts to swell with divine energy. The light shoots all the way up to the sky like a beacon. Once it was over, The jewel split into two pieces. Lyon hopes that JGD rests in peace. Lyon then tells the president that he had destroyed the Jewel of Wisdom. The president says that it was a shame. Lyon asks if the president was complaining about it. The president says that he wasn't. He says that since Lyon was the one who destroyed the JGD Spinner, it was his right to do whatever he wanted with the jewel as well. Lyon tells the president to stop being disappointed, as he only destroyed the jewel because it was poison. The president asks what he means by that. Lyon explains that the jewel was something created by the evil of wisdom to tempt humans' endless thirst for knowledge. In other words, a demonic item. Something that grants your wish, but then starts asking for payment. Like feeding a beast to tame it. It eats away at humans with temptations of eternal life. And it doesn't take long for one to lose their humanity and become a demon. He asks if any such jewels were discovered in any other place, saying that they must be destroyed before it's too late. The president says that he will let governments around the world know about this as soon as possible. They walk up to a huge door, and Lyon says that those who already have the jewels might have already fallen under the demon's seduction. Once they enter the room with a bunch of scientists working, Lyon asks if this is where it was resting. The president says that they kept it safe and sound. In the middle of the room, there was what was left of JGD Spinner. The president asks what Lyon wanted to do with it. Lyon says that since he was an honorable knight, he wishes to bury him and pray that he makes it to the gods' banquet hall. But he had to be blessed first, so he pulls out the Holy Grail and asks the loyal knight to rest well while pouring the divine liquid on him. The machine somehow suddenly starts moving. Immediately after, small arms pop out from its side and start repairing. The machine was somehow using the divine energy as its power source to move. After a while of fixing itself and removing all the unusable parts, a smaller JGD Spinner presents himself. He squeaks after looking at Lyon. Lyon pulls out his sword and says that the goddess would surely accept him. He uses the sword and drives it into the ground in front of him and prays. After a while of praying, he lifts his sword once again and slashes it at thin air. The slash shatters reality, and the goddess's face can be seen through it. The humans in the room all involuntarily fall to their knees. They felt that the woman of brilliant light wasn't human, but a divine being incomparable to anything else. Lyon kneels in front of her and greets the goddess Ariana. She asks what it was that her first knight wanted. Lyon says that the machine in front of her was Sir JGD Spinner, an honorable knight and a role model to all knights. He says that Sir Spinner deserves Ariana's care just as much as he does. Ariana says that Spinner hadn't fulfilled her quest and has not proven his honor, nor had he offered his glory to her. Lyon says that he guarantees it as her first knight, that if it weren't for his existence, then Sir Spinner would be a befitting recipient of the king of the Lionheart's glory. Ariana smiles and says that if her first knight described him as such, then there was no reason for her to look into it further. She says that there was something else she needed to be certain of. She calls him an otherworldly steel knight and asks if he would worship the light and sing justice by enlisting into her knight's military. JGD tilts his head and squeaks. Ariana says that the little machine was full of honor and knowledge but still had the heart of a child. She says that if JGD helped her knight get rid of evil in this world, then he too could be a knight. Spinner looks at Lyon, who nods with a smile. Spinner stands proudly while flapping his wings and squeaks twice. No one understood if that was a yes or no. He immediately starts hacking the networks around and starts installing language modules. Then he says, "Demon attack equals good plan." Ariana chuckles and says that as long as he was loyal and supportive of her first knight, she will be with him in glory, and blesses JGD Spinner as a Grail Knight, blessed with light and justice. Let me know in the comments if I should continue this recap. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you've made it this far.